Okay, everybody. We're going to try to do these episodes now. Welcome to the Kinky Christian Podcast. I'm your host, Pat, and we're going to try to do some talking here with my co-host. I brought my kitten along for this ride.
Howdy.
So, as promised, finally, I've been talking about doing an episode on Aftercare. So, I figure what better way to do it than to bring someone in who experiences Aftercare.
Good plan?
Good plan, right?
I would think so.
I'm thinking I'm good. So, Aftercare is like super important. We know that, right?
Yes.
And it's important not only for your physical body, because your body goes through a lot when we do a scene.
It does.
There's a lot of, depending on the scene at least, there's a lot of impact. There's a lot of, sometimes there's like prickly play with
Stimulation.
A lot of stimulation in a million different ways. It can be even fire, wax, electrical. Any way you look at it, the body goes through a lot of trauma. It really is trauma. Yes, you enjoy it, but your body may even enjoy the physical sensation of it, but it's trauma nonetheless. Mm-hmm. So when you go through a trauma, you got to care for yourself afterwards.
Correct. Plus, you have to keep in mind the mental aspect of it.
And there's mental. So for aftercare, and aftercare isn't just immediately after.
Correct.
Aftercare can be, still a day after or a week after, depending on the needs of the submissive that went through the scene.
Correct.
So.
And the Dom.
Correct. There's I don't know if it's even like a current movement, but there's a thing now where they're pushing more Dom aftercare.
It's being more talked about.
Yeah, it's probably always been there.
Yeah, I would think. I don't.
But I think it kind of falls along the lines in my opinion, and don't hate me because I'm not trying to be like masculine and feminine. It's not about that. But for the longest time, they looked at men in a bad light when they said they've been sexually assaulted by a woman.
Correct.
There's a lot of, oh, you're a man, that doesn't.
There's stigma.
Yeah. And so I think with Doms, they think the same, oh, you're the one doing the dominating. You don't, you're in control and you're doing this and you're not the one who's being whipped. So you don't really need aftercare, don't. Stop whining,
Right.
Oh, so your shoulder's a little sore. Don't be a bitch. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I think a lot of that, too, is they don't think about the aspect of you are causing physical harm. We're not really harming, but
you're causing pain.
Physical pain to someone that you love or have
an intimate connection to.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they don't think about the emotional aspect of that. I mean, sure, the physical part is draining, but the emotional aspect of it, I think, takes more of a toll. And they're just now starting to have conversations around that. I think because now we're more open to talking about the mental aspects of
anything. Yeah.
So I think that now people are a little more open to having the conversation about dom care, top care. because we're being more open about the mental part.
I agree. So some of the things that we like to do for aftercare is rubbing down. I think probably physically, and you may disagree, but I think physically that's one of the better things you can do, because physically the submissive has usually suffered a physical trauma to the body. So when you do that, you take care of that spot where the trauma was inflicted. So we like to rub down with vitamin C and oils, and I keep teasing my kitten because she's big into,
My witchcraft.
I call it her witchcraft, her little voodoo witchery. She's big into essential oils, but they work. She's proven it time and time again. Yes.
Can't deny the results.
Can't argue with the results. So you take oils and rub them in, and it helps with that physical aspect. Now, there's also another physical aspect that we deal with, and we do that by chocolates or food, rehydration, stuff that gets the body chemistry and fluids and all that back where it needs to be. So that's also a physical form of aftercare. And then for emotional aftercare, there's a couple things, and you correct me if I'm wrong.
I will.
Oh, I know you will. But for my submissive, the emotional aspect, actually, once we discovered Dom aftercare, that helped you a lot emotionally and mentally.
It helps. For me, it helps with the connection. Being a submissive, I want to take care of you. So I honor the fact that you are giving me what I need through the scene, and I want to give that back to you by the physical connection, and it's an emotional connection for me because I can take care of you, by rubbing you down and with the same witchery and like ease some of the tension in your muscles, and because it's not just it's all day every day that you're physically active, and then now you are intensely active with me in the scene. So to be able to give myself back to you afterwards, it fills me.
Right.
Yeah.
And our scenes are generally about an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
And the way we do our scenes, it's pretty much nonstop for an hour to an hour and a half. So I am not a marathon runner. I don't have the stamina of a 24-year-old, guy. But so an hour to an hour and a half of nonstop, just action and beating, and it does take a toll on you.
Well, plus the mental preparation for
Yep.
what's going to happen in that scene. We don't typically have the open communication about what we're going to do in the scene, other than, do you want thud or do you want
Do you want sting?
a sting? So I think that helps. But you still have to put the mental capacity into preparing what you're going to do.
And she's getting excited. I'm going to tell you that right now because she's probably thinking about the scene we're going to have later.
You would be correct.
I would be correct. So yeah, aftercare for both the top and the bottom, the dom, the sub, whatever you want to call it, for both people involved is important.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's a little more important for the submissive than it is for the dom, just because of the amount of trauma that we inflict onto the body. So I think physically and as much as your endorphins and your chemicals are up and down and up and down during a scene, the even just like now, the mental preparedness that, everything that's going through your head, even now as we speak, till when it's over, and now you're coming down from that. I mean, there's a lot that goes into these scenes, and I think aftercare for the submissive, because I think it just physically and emotionally affects the submissive more than it does the dominant.
It could.
Personal opinion, I don't know if there's
Well, and I think it depends also on the scene, like what's more involved. Like in my readings and seeing some of the things, like at Kinky College, the aftercare that is provided there is a little different than what we do. Even some of the readings, they talk about wrapping the submissive in a blanket and keeping them warm, and they usually go to sleep, take a nap, and then they wake up and they have a snack. And so I guess it just depends on the
Depends
type of scene.
And I think it depends on the individual. I think aftercare is a very personal thing.
Yeah, yeah, we've definitely developed it over
Yeah.
the time.
Because what we do now is not what we started doing.
No.
So I think we learn what works and what doesn't work.
Well, and the aftercare also helps, like, bring us back down, like to a normal level. So when we're doing the final scene, we try to like bring it back to normalcy, and then that final, like the rub, it helps
It's like putting down the landing gear and then bringing you for landing.
Well, it's more like it helps. Yeah, if I'm fortunate enough to fly, but it helps with the calming. Like it regulates.
It's almost like a beginning of the aftercare right then.
Right, because it starts regulating the heart rate. It starts regulating, like, calming the skin down. It starts calming. Sometimes when we get really intense, my whole body like tenses up because which I should not be doing because it makes it worse, from the pain. If I can't like ride the pain and then I tense up, so now when you do the rubbing, it like calms everything and relaxes me back
Loosens it all up.
to normalcy, like
Yeah, reality kind of.
pre-game. Yeah.
Yeah. So, lesson here is aftercare, no matter what it is for you, you got to find that out yourself. Find out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And something that works for you this time may not be what works for you next time. I know there's been a couple times I give her like electrolytes and juices. We call it baby juice, but stuff like that. And she's like, no, I think I need a candy bar.
Or I want protein.
Or a protein bar. Actually, sometimes she's just outright hungry.
Give me some steak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be what it's going to be for you as an individual, but the importance of it remains the same. It's after a scene, it's like the thing you need to do, and it doesn't, especially with if you're into the deep bruising kind of stuff, the lasting marks, and psychologically, it doesn't always end just right after the scene. Aftercare can last for days. You may have to to, you know, take care of bruising and take care of welts and take care of psychological, aspects of what just happened for days after the scene. So don't think that it's just a one and done. Hey, I beat your ass and I rubbed you down. Now you're good to go.
Later.
Yeah, because sometimes that's just not the case. And I know from experience that emotionally it can last for a while because of the high that you ride and then coming down. So be prepared if you're going to get into this lifestyle and you're going to do things like this. Be prepared to, don't even look at it as aftercare. Just look at it as caring for your submissive.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. If you're not 24/7, that you make sure that you check in on
your submissive. Yeah, even up to a week later, just make sure how you doing.
Well, I mean, sooner than a week.
Well, but what I'm saying continually, even if it's for a week.
Yeah.
I'm not saying wait a week and do it. I'm just saying for a week if you have to, Yeah. And you'll learn each person is different.
Well, and each time is different. Yeah. So, I would certainly recommend to have those check-ins regardless. Yeah. Because what's fine one time isn't going to be fine the next time, and it also is determined by what are they exposed to after the scene.
Right.
And so when you take into account like our everyday lives and you've had a hard scene and then the next day
you're going to work
and you have a really, really bad day, there may be some residual and some additional aftercare that's going to need to be.
That's why I said don't really look at it as aftercare. Look at it as caring for the person.
Yeah.
You should care for your submissive. Being Christian, we're married. And that's kind of where we're going with this whole podcast is tackling this from a Christian standpoint. So. Your spouse, your sub, whether it be male or female, because there's a lot of female doms and male submissives. So don't think this is the typical. Right. There's no real typical relationship here, but you should be in a relationship and take care of them. Take care of them all the time because it's this relationship, this type of relationship, this dynamic it's intense to begin with. Just the dynamic is intense.
Right.
Now you add scenes like that, it just steps it up a notch or two. That's why we always promote, safe, sane, and consensual because it's really it's an intense relationship to be in.
Yeah.
So hopefully you and your spouse, you and your fiance, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, can get a little something out of this and do it safely.
And take care of each other.
So, anything more to say?
I don't think so.
Think we covered it all?
I'm sure I'll think of something later because that's what I do.
That's what you do. So, yeah, aftercare is just super important. And it doesn't stop immediately after the scene. So, just take care of each other and stay safe out there. God bless.